The Memorial Bridge gave way at 7:52 a.m. with 32nd graders on board Bus 47. In less than 10 seconds, the yellow school bus was nose down in 40 feet of freezing river water, air bubbles streaming from the emergency exit as children screamed inside. Bus driver Tommy Chen had exactly 4 minutes before hypothermia would start claiming young lives. What the trapped children didn't know was that their quiet driver had spent 18 years as a Coast Guard rescue swimmer, pulling people from waters that had already given up trying to kill them dead in moments of crisis. Heroes don't always arrive by helicopter or speedboat. Sometimes they're already there, wearing reflective vests and carrying the weight of responsibility for precious cargo. Before we dive into this heart-stopping story of courage, expertise, and the race against hypothermia, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like Tommy's prove that guardians come in many forms, hit that subscribe button and help us honor those who protect our most vulnerable. Tommy Chen had been driving school bus 47 for exactly 4 years, 7 months, and 18 days. To the children of Riverside Elementary, he was Mr. Tommy, the quiet driver who always arrived on time, helped them with heavy backpacks, and never raised his voice even when they got too rowdy in the back seats. What the children didn't know was that Tommy's patience and calm demeanor came from 18 years of facing life-or-death situations where panic meant people died every morning. Tommy followed the same route. Pick up at Riverside Elementary at 7:30 a.m., transport 32nd and 3rd graders across Memorial Bridge to the district's Gifted and Talented program at Lincoln Academy, arrival by 8:15 a.m. The route had become so routine that Tommy could drive it in his sleep, but his eyes still automatically scanned for potential hazards with the vigilance of someone who had been trained to expect the unexpected. The children saw a friendly bus driver who knew their names and asked about their school projects. What they couldn't see was how Tommy unconsciously positioned himself for quick emergency response, how he kept the bus's emergency equipment in perfect condition, or how he had mentally rehearsed emergency procedures for every possible scenario he might encounter. Tommy had joined the Coast Guard straight out of high school, drawn by the combination of military service and the chance to save lives. After completing basic training, he had volunteered for Aviation Survival Technician School, the program that trained Coast Guard rescue swimmers. Only a small percentage of candidates actually graduated from the program, which was designed to prepare rescuers for the most dangerous water rescue operations in the world. Coast Guard rescue swimmers were the elite water rescue specialists who deployed from helicopters to save people from sinking ships, crashed aircraft, and disaster zones where conventional rescue methods couldn't reach. Tommy had learned to operate in conditions that would kill most people: hypothermic waters, hurricane-force winds, 30-foot waves, and underwater environments where visibility was zero and every second counted. For 18 years, Tommy had deployed on rescue missions that ranged from routine boat breakdowns to major maritime disasters. He had pulled survivors from sinking fishing vessels in the North Atlantic, rescued aircrew from crash helicopters, and operated in disaster zones where the Coast Guard was the only hope for people trapped by flooding or storm surge. The training had been brutal, both physically and mentally. Rescue swimmers had to be able to swim for hours in rough seas, dive to significant depths without equipment, and maintain peak physical condition throughout their careers. But the psychological demands were even greater, making life or death decisions in seconds, choosing which victims to save first when resources were limited, and living with the reality that not everyone could be rescued. When Tommy retired from the Coast Guard, He had deliberately chosen school bus driving as a way to continue serving his community while avoiding the high-stress emergency responses that had defined his military career. For 4 years, the strategy had worked. Tommy found peace in the routine of transporting children safely, satisfaction in being part of their daily lives, and purpose in protecting the community's most precious cargo. The children and parents at Riverside Elementary knew Tommy as reliable, professional, and annually safety conscious. He conducted thorough pre-trip inspections that went beyond normal requirements, maintained his emergency equipment with military precision, and had earned perfect safety ratings from the school district. They attributed this to experience and professionalism, never suspecting that Tommy's vigilance came from intimate knowledge of how quickly routine situations could become life-or-death emergencies. On Tuesday morning, Tommy was completing his normal route when he felt something that made his blood freeze. A subtle vibration in the Memorial Bridge's structure, the kind of movement that spoke of engineering stress beyond normal parameters. The bridge was over 50 years old, and Tommy had noticed increasing deterioration in recent months. But structural analysis wasn't his responsibility. As Bus 47 approached the bridge's center span, Tommy felt the vibration increase, followed by a sound that he recognized from military engineering training. The groan of metal under load it wasn't designed to bear. Tommy had seen bridges fail during hurricane rescues, and he knew the warning signs that preceded catastrophic collapse. "Everyone hold on tight," Tommy called to the children, his voice calm but carrying an urgency that made them stop their conversations and pay attention. The bridge deck began to sag visibly beneath the bus's weight. Tommy accelerated, trying to reach the far side before the collapse, but he could feel the roadway giving way beneath them. In the rearview mirror, he could see the bridge's support cables beginning to snap with sounds like gunshots. At 7:52 a.m., the Memorial Bridge's center span failed catastrophically. 200 feet of roadway dropped 40 feet into the Riverside River, carrying school bus 47 and its 30 young passengers into water that was 42 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to cause hypothermia in minutes. The bus hit the water nose first, immediately flooding the front section and trapping children in seats that were now underwater. Tommy's Coast Guard training kicked in before the bus had finished sinking. He wasn't a bus driver anymore. He was a rescue swimmer facing a mass casualty water rescue with 30 victims who couldn't survive more than a few minutes in water this cold. Tommy's first priority was establishing an air pocket for the children who were still above water. He ordered everyone to move to the rear of the bus, where the emergency exit was still above the waterline. But he could see that the bus was settling deeper into the river, and complete submersion was only minutes away. "Listen to me carefully," Tommy called out, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded rescue operations in far worse conditions. "We are going to evacuate through the rear emergency exit. I need everyone to stay calm and follow my instructions exactly." The children were terrified, but something in Tommy's tone made them focus on his words instead of their fear. This wasn't the gentle Mr. Tommy who helped them with their backpacks. This was someone who clearly knew what he was doing in an emergency. Tommy opened the rear emergency exit and began the evacuation process using techniques he had learned for extracting aircrew from downed helicopters. The water was shockingly cold, but Tommy's body had been conditioned by years of cold water training to function effectively despite the hypothermic conditions. The first challenge was getting the children who couldn't swim safely to shore. Tommy used a technique called towing in tandem, where he could transport multiple victims simultaneously by having them hold onto a flotation device while he provided propulsion. He had rigged an improvised flotation system using the bus's emergency equipment and seat cushions. But as Tommy began moving children to safety, he realized that several students were trapped in the forward section of the bus, which was now completely underwater. This would require him to perform the most dangerous type of rescue operation: underwater search and recovery in zero visibility conditions with multiple victims. Tommy took a deep breath and dug beneath the bus, using skills honed by hundreds of training dives in conditions exactly like this. He had been trained to navigate flooded aircraft in complete darkness, to locate victims by touch, and to manage his air supply while performing complex rescue maneuvers. The first child he found was Sarah Mitchell, a 7-year-old trapped under an overturned seat. Tommy freed her using emergency extrication techniques, then brought her to the surface using a controlled ascent that wouldn't cause additional injury. Sarah was unconscious but breathing, showing early signs of hypothermia. Tommy's Coast Guard training included advanced water survival medicine, and he knew exactly how to manage hypothermic victims in water rescue scenarios. He positioned Sarah in a recovery position that would maintain her airway while conserving body heat, then continued searching for other trapped children. By the time the first emergency responders arrived on scene, Tommy had successfully evacuated 28 of the 30 children from the bus. 2 children remained trapped in the forward section, which was now completely submerged and filling with sediment from the river bottom. The arriving fire department rescue team found Tommy coordinating a makeshift triage area on the riverbank, using techniques learned from mass casualty rescue operations. He had organized the rescued children by severity of hypothermia symptoms and was directing parents and teachers in providing appropriate care. "Who's running this rescue operation?" the fire chief asked. "Tommy Chen, bus driver," one of the parents replied. "He's been pulling children out of that bus for the last 20 minutes. The fire chief looked at Tommy more closely, taking in his systematic approach to the rescue operation, his professional management of hypothermic victims, and his obvious expertise with water rescue techniques. "You have training for this?" Tommy nodded. "Coast Guard rescue swimmer, 18 years. Multiple water rescue operations." The chief's expression shifted immediately. Coast Guard rescue swimmers were legendary in emergency services, elite specialists who operated in conditions that killed other rescuers. Finding one already on scene and controlling the operation was like discovering a trauma surgeon at a car accident. "What's the situation with the remaining victims?" Tommy gave a rapid but comprehensive briefing on the underwater conditions, victim locations, and dive requirements that was so thorough and professional that the chief immediately put him in charge of the technical dive operation. For the next hour, Tommy led a coordinated underwater rescue effort that ultimately saved all 30 children from Bus 47. The 2 children who had been trapped underwater were successfully extracted and resuscitated, though they required intensive medical treatment for hypothermia and a drowning. The investigation that followed revealed that the Memorial Bridge had been structurally compromised for months, with warning signs that had been overlooked by state inspection teams. Without Tommy's immediate expert response, investigators estimated that the hypothermic water conditions would have claimed multiple young lives within minutes of the collapse. The media coverage of the Memorial Bridge collapse focused on the miraculous rescue of 30 school children, but Tommy avoided interviews and publicity. He returned to driving buses the following week, but his heroic actions had been witnessed by hundreds of parents and emergency responders. Tommy's employer promoted him to District Transportation Safety Coordinator, where his expertise could help prevent future disasters and improve emergency response protocols. Other school districts began recruiting former military rescue specialists for their transportation departments, recognizing that some emergencies required more than standard first aid training. The families whose children came home safely from Bus 47 never forgot that their miracle had come not from emergency responders racing to the scene, but from the quiet driver who had carried 18 years of rescue expertise into the most important water rescue of his civilian life. Tommy Chen never sought recognition for his actions that day. The skills that saved 30 young lives had been earned in rescues that most people preferred not to think about. And Tommy understood that heroism often came with experiences that weren't suitable for news interviews. But when disaster struck and children needed help, some skills were too valuable to leave unused, and some callings too important to abandon completely. The memorial bridge was eventually rebuilt with enhanced safety features and a memorial plaque honoring the miracle of Bus 47. But for the 30 families who still gather each year on the anniversary of the rescue, the real miracle was having a guardian angel who wore a bus driver's uniform and carried the skills to turn a potential tragedy into a story of survival. So I ask you, have you ever seen someone step forward in a crisis with capabilities that seem to come from another world entirely? Someone whose calm expertise under pressure revealed a background that explained their fearlessness in the face of danger. Share their story in the comments. Because here at the Human Stories, we believe that the most powerful rescues often come from the most unexpected heroes. Thank you for watching. If Tommy's story moved you, please subscribe and share this video. Help us honor those who carry their rescue skills quietly, ready to deploy them when the most vulnerable need protection, proving that heroes don't always arrive by helicopter. Sometimes they're already on board, wearing reflective vests and watching over our children. Until next time, remember, the person driving your child to school might once have pulled survivors from sinking ships in the open ocean. Sometimes the most ordinary jobs are done by the most extraordinary people.